Hello, welcome to another edition of Bards in the Basement. Today I will be reading and discussing The Juggler by Richard Wilbur. Richard Wilbur is a 20th century American poet. He is from the new critical school of poetry. This school of poetry emphasized rhyme, meter, wordplay, puns, paradoxes. There is a subtle intellectualism to their poetry, and they're not overtly emotional. Yes, there's still some emotion there, but as I said, intellectualism is more in the forefront than the emotion. What I'm going to do is I'll read through the poem and then I will go back and discuss lines and stanzas. And if you look at the second column beneath the poem, you'll see a box with literary devices in there. I will emphasize those literary devices as I walk through the poem with you. Let us hear the poem first, though. The Juggler by Richard Wilbur. A ball will bounce, but less and less. It's not a light-hearted thing, resents its own resilience. Falling is what it loves, and the earth falls, so in our hearts from brilliance, settles and is forgot. It takes a sky-blue juggler with 5 red balls to shake our gravity up. We in the air, the balls roll around, wheel on his wheeling hands, learning the ways of lightness, altars to spheres, grazing his finger ends, cling to their courses there, swinging a small heaven about his ears. But a heaven is easier made of nothing at all than the earth regained, and still the soul within the spin of worlds with a gesture sure and noble, he reels that heaven in, landing it ball by ball, and trades it all for a broom, a plate, a table. Oh, on his toe the table is turning, the broom's balancing up on his nose, and the plate whirls on the tip of the broom. Damn, what a show, we cry. The boys stamp, the girls shriek, and the drum booms, and all come down, and he bows and says goodbye. If the juggler is tired now, if the broom stands in the dust again, if the table starts to drop through the daily dark again, and though the plate lies flat on the tabletop, for him we batter our hands, who has won for once over the world's weight. Ah, wonderful poem. Um, First, I just want to note something. The speaker of the poem is not Richard Wilbur. The speaker of the poem is a persona created by the poet. I like to think of the speaker in this poem to be a person that was passing by and they saw a performer on the street. And so they stopped to bear witness to the performance and then offer a commentary for us, the reader, to read and enjoy and possibly take some meaning from. So the speaker of the poem, as I said, not Richard Wilbur, but a persona created by him. I also want to note the first literary device there, the extended metaphor. The extended metaphor is a literary device that figuratively compares two things that are not alike over the course of multiple lines of poetry or prose. And so here we have the extended metaphor of the juggler. The juggler is a metaphor for life, if you will, the ups and downs that we might have in life, the performances that go well and the performances that sometimes crash. But so the overarching metaphor comparison is the juggler and life. Now I want to go back and look at that first stanza. If you notice the first stanza, you'll see some letters that are bolded. Um, Nice use of alliteration by the poet. Baw, bounce, but, brilliance, balls. And then the nice F sounds, falling, falls, forgot. And the L sounds, less, less, light, loves. And then we have the L sounds picked up by the word brilliance as well and resilience. So there's a lot of L sounds in those words. And so the use of alliteration gives the poem a nice rhythm, has a nice beat to it. Also, I like when poets connect words and ideas through the use of alliteration. like ball bounce brilliance. There's something brilliant about the ball bouncing, and sometimes though the ball bounces and does not bounce as high on the second bounce or the third bounce as it did on the initial. And so we'll take that in consideration when we think about the meaning of the poem. Also, I think the Fs are nice too. Falling, falls, forgot. And sometimes, yeah, that's what happens in the world. We fall, and are forgotten. That the ball dribbles away, and we forget about that ball over there. So nice use of alliteration, that first stanza, and then the poet continues to use alliteration all the way through the poem. I really like the first line of the fourth stanza. On his toe, the table is turning. So we have that nice T sounds, and it almost like makes us see the table turning on his toe a little bit easier, if you will. So sometimes alliteration helps us hear the poem. Sometimes it helps us see the poem. In this case, I think it does both. But going back to that first stanza, we do have a set rhyme scheme. The rhyme scheme, it's a six-line sonnet, six-line stanza. Each stanza is six lines, and most of the lines are anywhere between 9 and 10 syllables per line, with a couple shorter there. So there's a set rhythm to the poem, a set syllable count, to, if you will, to the poem, and then that coupled with the, as I was about to say, the rhyme scheme. The rhyme scheme is ABC. BAC. So we see how not rhymes with forgot, resilience with brilliance, falls with balls. So it has a set rhyme scheme. And it's not ABC, which is a more um, um, popular rhyme scheme to have in a sestet stanza. But I like the pattern, though. The pattern of the 5 stanzas is the same, and I think it in some way mirrors the pattern of the juggling, that's being performed too. There's a pattern to, juggling those balls. There's a pattern to turning the broom and the table, and the plates. There's a rhythm to that, and I think that possibly the rhyme scheme points to or acknowledges the rhythm of the juggler. So we can see the literary devices, and then we have to ask why does the poet employ these literary devices, and what does he accomplish with these literary devices? Going to that first stanza, ball will bounce, but less and less. Yeah, take a rubber ball and drop it, and the ball won't bounce as high. And possibly the poet is suggesting that that's how life is sometimes. It's not light-hearted thing, resents its own resilience, and that sometimes yeah, we kind of struggle with that. We first, let me before I talk about what it means. I like the personification. It resents its own resilience. The ball or the juggler resents its own resilience of having to get up and juggle all the time, or the ball resents its resilience that it bounces, 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 and slowly peters out. I think there's a couple ways of looking at that phrase there. Falling is what it loves. The ball loves to fall, and it takes the juggler energy and strength to throw that ball back up, to put it back up in the air and keep it going, and doing so bring it to life for the viewers and provide entertainment. So I think those are some ideas that are being um, um, engaged with by Wilbur the poet. So falling is what it loves. The earth loves fall. So in our hearts, from brilliance. I love this the lack of punctuation at the word falls. We call that enjambment. Enjambment is a literary device. When a poet decides not to have punctuation at the end of a line, we call that enjambment. It comes from the French word to skip over. So the line is skipping over a pause, skipping over a comma or period. And so we read it a little bit faster. It connects the ideas a little bit faster, more intimately, if you will. And it also sets up a difference between a line that's enjambed and a line that has a period. For example, you look at the first 2 lines, a ball will bounce, semicolon, slows it down, but less and less, period, end stop. It comes to a stop. The ball will eventually come to a stop. It's not a lighthearted thing, comma, resents its own resilience. And so we have how many pieces of punctuation in the first 2 lines? We have 4 pieces of punctuation to slow down those lines as we visualize the ball slowing down and stopping, to a resting point, if you will. Falling is what it loves. Falling is what the ball loves. When the earth falls, so in our hearts from brilliance. And so the earth falls, so in our hearts. You read that line a little bit faster, and it connects the idea of the earth falling and something falling within us, and falls in our hearts from brilliance. And sometimes we lose some of our brilliance, if you will, settles and is forgot. And so now we have that comma after brilliance, settles and forgot, that the ball is forgotten. And possibly sometimes we might settle and forget brilliance in ourselves or brilliance in the world. Some ideas I think that are being kicked around. But here we have a really nice example of imagery and enjambment. It takes a sky blue juggler with 5 red balls to shake our gravity up. And so you notice how I didn't even slow down between balls and to shake up our gravity up. That the sky blue juggler with 5 red balls to shake our gravity up. It reads quicker. We get the nice color sky blue juggler, 5 red balls, and so we have the once again, we have some nice assonance, sky, 5, set up with blue and red. So we have some nice sound devices, nice images there, that we have nice movement with 5 red balls to shake our gravity up. It's to not just shake up the gravity of the balls by throwing them in the air, but shake um, as people, the people that are watching. We possibly might learn something from what we're witnessing there about life. Nice use of onomatopoeia in the next word after the period up. Wee! We can hear possibly the juggler making this sound. Maybe the audience is making this sound. Wee in the air. The balls roll around, or maybe the balls in the air make the sound. The balls roll around. Wheel on his wheeling hands. And so there's a really nice image for us that we can picture the juggler's hands wheeling around and the balls wheeling around, uh, learning the ways of lightness. Once again, the balls are learning to be light and to stay suspended a little bit. And possibly we, the viewer, are learning what the value of lightness and not to be weighted down by this world, not to be weighted down by the pull of gravity. So I think there's a nice connection between the balls weeing around and learning lightness, and we, the viewer, we need to learn that lightness. Okay. um, alter to spheres, grazing his fingers' ends. And so now we have, once again, no punctuation at the spheres. Then we could visualize the grazing his finger ends. We could see the ball touching the juggler's finger ends, cling to their courses there. So they're clinging to their courses on the fingers, as he throwing them up in the air and juggling them. Swing a small heaven about his ears. Boom, period. Yeah, and so now we stop, we think, yeah, that is something like heaven. There's something beautiful about watching a juggler do their thing, watching a juggler perform. It's a small heaven, a small heaven. That, yeah, sometimes the world is large and sometimes it's overwhelming, but you know what? There are some small heavens out there, some small pleasures out there, such as juggling, such as reading good poetry. But a heaven is easier made of nothing at all than the earth regained, and still the soul within the spin of worlds. With a gesture, and sure and noble, he reels that heaven in. And so that heaven that he made was so easy. It was so easy just to juggle. But he also knows, okay, I'm gonna reel that heaven in. And so now we see how the juggler's bringing those balls down and setting them to the side, finishing that part of his show, landing it ball by ball, and trades it all for a broom, a plate, table. So he's done juggling the balls. He's brought that heaven, that small heaven, to down to earth, and he sets them aside. And now here he moves to something even more tremendous. Oh, and that nice interjection, if you will. Oh, on his toe, the table is turning, the broom's balancing on his nose, and the plate whirls on the tip of the broom. Exclamation point. Look at that. Oh my gosh. Table on his toe. A broom on his nose, and plates whirls on tip of that broom. Oh my! Exclamation, and we have the interjection. Oh, and then after the exclamation part, we had damn. Another kind of interjection. What a show! We cry. And we're so excited about this. Oh, we thought the balls were wonderful. what now the juggler is doing. The boys stamp and the girls shriek and the drum booms and all come down. He bows and says goodbye. A wonderful broom balancing, broom boom, some nice sound effects here. And so we can see and hear this performance, and we can hear the stamping of the feet. We can hear the girl shrieking. We can hear the drum boom, and then it all comes down and he takes his bow after the broom and the balancing and the boom. He bows. So I do like the B sounds in this stanza. If the juggler is tired now, if the broom stands, nice structure here. If the juggler, if the broom, in the dust again, on the earth again, if the table starts to drop. So now we have three parts of those two lines starting with if the juggler's tired, if the broom stands, if the table starts to stop, it starts to drop. If these things happen through the daily dark again, daily dark, nice use of alliteration, through the daily dark, the day-to-day living, if all this does through the daily dark, and though the plate lies flat on the tabletop, for him we batter our hands, who has won for once over the world's weight. And I love the battering of the hands, the clapping of the hands, the battering of the hands. He won. He won over gravity. He won over the weight of the world. For just a moment, we step out of the daily dark and we saw five red balls quarreling about. For just a moment, we stepped out of the daily dark and we saw the juggler uh, turning a table on his toe. We saw a juggler balancing a broom on his nose and plates a whirl. Oh my goodness! And so I think that in the end, this is kind of a celebration that, yeah, life can get us down. Life can be difficult at times. It's easy to fall and stay down. But the juggler teaches us to pick something up and juggle it. To juggle those hardships, I guess, if you will, to do something beautiful. I think there's a celebration, a celebratory tone in this poem that celebrates uh, overcoming gravity, overcoming the weight of the world. And that's what we should learn from the juggler. That you can create a small heaven juggling. That you can step outside of that daily dark juggling. So hopefully, you see what I'm or hear, understand what I'm trying to say. We have the extended metaphor, which I mentioned, and I mentioned the rhyme scheme, the imagery, wonderful imagery of the table, on the toe, the broom on the nose, the five red balls with next to the sky blue juggler. So there's some nice images that we can see easily enough. I mentioned the enjambment. Oh, the diction I haven't talked about. Diction is word choice, and think about some of the words we have in this poem that are just wonderful. Um, Brilliance, resilience, we. How many words ending with ing? Learning, grazing, balancing. Um, all these words with energy in them. Something's happening in them. So I think the word choice most of the word choice is positive, has positive connotations, and many of the words are have been energetic and fighting against gravity's pull, fighting against the fall of the world, if you will, the fall of heaven. So we have that nice word choice there. Tone of the poem. The tone of the poem is sometimes referred to as the emotional meaning of the poem, the author's attitudes toward the subject. The tone, as I said, is celebratory, celebrating, um, 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 existing and continuing to exist. I've already mentioned alliteration and personification. So, wonderful poem by Richard Wilbur. As I said, some nice ideas in this poem. I hope you enjoyed my discussion of it, and you can take something away from my discussion. Um, Please read some more poems by Richard Wilbur. And if you like this video, please give it a thumbs up. All right. Thank you.